Hello, my name is Bubobi HAW, and this is a video I took at TIA Consult as part of a portfolio I'm presenting to the University of Education, Winneba, Kumasi campus. It was actually taken on the 25th of April 2012. Now, the topic I taught on that day was Introduction to Computers, and it was under the main subject Information Technology, and I taught it to Part 1A students. The objectives of the lesson are enumerated here, so you can take a look and then sit back and watch as I do the teaching. Thank you.
Good morning, class.
Good morning.
Okay, it's another day for Introduction to ICT, and today we're really going to delve deep into ICT. We want to know what ICT is. We want to know what computers are. Then we'll talk about the information processing cycle. Okay. We also deal with the two categories of ICT, that is the hardware and the software. Then we'll talk about the components of the hardware and then those of the software. If you are ready with me, let's start. We see where we can end today and perhaps we continue. Okay. The first thing we want to look at is what a computer is. Okay? What is a computer? Now, I want to tell you what I know a computer is, then I want to know what you think a computer is. Okay? I think that a computer is an electronic device, okay, that accepts data in the form of inputs. Then it needs to convert this data, and that is called processing. Then it gives you an output in the form of information. Now that information needs to be distributed or stored. After going through this process, if a system is able to finish this process, then we can call that system a computer. What do you think a computer is? What do you think a computer is? Yes, Thomas.
A computer is a device that helps one to do work easier.
That's good. That's good. Good. Who else? Yes?
A computer is a device which is used to process information.
Device used to process information. Now let's see what we have on the slide. An electronic device operating under the control of instructions stored in its own memory units that can accept data, manipulate the data according to specific rules, produce information from the processing, and store the results for future use. So you see that we have inputs there, we have processing, we have storage, and then we have what? Output. Those are the basic things you need when you are defining a computer. Quickly, we look at some of the devices that comprise a personal computer. Now I want you to look at those devices and then mention the ones you can see. So you only to identify them. Okay? Put up your hand and then you mention the name of the device. Yes?
A printer.
A printer? Good. Thomas.
Scanner.
A scanner? Irene. A monitor?
System unit.
System unit?
A digital camera.
Digital camera? What else?
Mouse.
A mouse. A mouse? And so on and so forth. Now, all these comprise of what? The computer system. So if someone says, I have a computer somewhere, if you go and see a speaker added to it, it's still a computer system. If you go and you see a camera there, once those items can aid in inputting data, processing it, outputting it, or storing it, then all those equipments can be known as a computer system, or can form part of a computer system. Is there any question you have? Let's look inside a system unit, and then we see the items in it. Inside a system unit. We already saw the system unit in the previous slide. Now this is the system unit and the items in it. There are so many items in there, but we'll talk about them when we are dealing with the system unit on its own. Now we just want to have a picture of it, how it looks like. Then let's go on to the the information processing cycle. Now, the first step in the information processing cycle is input. Now, what do we input? What do we input? Thomas? Data, very good. Now, in which forms does data take? What are some of the forms that data can be represented in? Numbers, good. Yeah. Come again. Graphics, good. That's images, pictures. Text, very good. So all these are what? Data, which we input. Sound and so on. After you input the data, you need the data to be what? Converted. Okay? From the way the machine understands it to what you understand. Now, what is that process called? The process where data is converted into information. Yes. Processing, very good. So processing occurs. So processing is the second step in the information processing cycle. Now, after the data is processed, then we get what?
Output.
We get what?
Output.
Output, very good. What forms does this output take? What are the forms in which the output takes? You mentioned that of data. So if you have the output, which we call information, what are the forms it takes? Yes,
Text.
Lydia.
Text.
Text, it can also be in the form of text. Sound, graphics, and so on. So it sends you back to whatever you send into it, that is what you get. Garbage in, garbage out. Okay? Alright. Then after your output is given to you, you can choose to what? Store it, so that you can use it later on. Or you can even distribute it to people, or to the needed people, or put it on sale. Okay? So the four processes there are: 1. Input, 2. Processing, 3. Output, and 4. Storage. Now the fifth one is also distribution. It's not there because these are the four main ones. That's why they are there. Distribution can occur or you only store. Okay, so you either store the item or you distribute it, or both. Now let's see the components of the computer and understand them very well. The first component we talk about is input devices. The input devices. Then the second is the central processing unit. The central processing unit. Then we'll talk about output devices. We'll talk about memory. And then lastly, we'll talk about the storage devices. When we say input, what does it mean? Input. What does it mean? Yes, Thomas.
Feed the computer with data.
Very good. To feed the computer with data. So the process of feeding the computer with data is what we are referring to input. So the device which we use in sending this data into the computer is what we are calling what? Input device. So that's the difference between input and input device. Input is the process and the device is the object with which we do the process. Right? So in the first place, think about an input which you can make. Then you tell me that a device which can be used in making that input. So I will start with my example and then you tell me the other examples. For instance, if I want to input sound or audio, then I need a microphone. So a microphone is an input device. Did you get me? If I need to input sound or audio, then I need a microphone. Because a microphone is what I can use to input that sound. Okay, so my input device is the microphone. And the data it sends is in the form of what? sound. Tell me yours. You mentioned the type of data and a device which goes with it. That's James. The keyboard, very good. Text, very good. Give him a clap. So the first one he mentioned is what? Keyboard. And he said it sends data which is in the form of what? Text. Very good. What else?
If I want to put a data in the form of video. A camera.
Good. So he needs what? A camera. And specifically a video camera. Or what we refer to as a webcam. So if you have a webcam, then you can capture what? Videos. So the input is what? Video. And then the device is a webcam or a video camera. Very good. What else? There are so many input devices. Yes, James again.
The scanner.
The scanner, very good. What form of data? Okay, that's it. Let me ask someone else. What form of data does the scanner send into your computer? Yes, Linda. Graphics, very good. Graphics. So there are more of them. Let's just see from the board and identify some of them. So we have the keyboard as an example, which he gave, the mouse, the digital camera, the scanner, and the microphone. Now there are more. The stylus, which you use, the touch screen phones, and then the touch screens. The touch screen itself is also an input device because you can place your finger on it and then just press something and it works. For instance, you see this phone here has touch. So you just press and then it works. The same way you can pick something out of it, which you call the stylus. I'm sure you've seen this before. The stylus. The stylus is also an input device. You touch the screen and then it works. The same way your finger touching the screen means this screen itself is also an input device. Is that clear? Now, we also have the game pad. The game pad, which they use in playing games. Okay? The joystick and so on. There are so many of them. Now what I want you to do is, I'll be giving you an assignment after the class. So you have to find out most of the items which are found in the class, the lesson. I'll give you an assignment for you to identify those devices. So now, this is how some keyboards have been put together on the screen. You have some in front of you. Please pull your drawer, and you'll find keyboards there. You find keyboards there. So these are just examples of the keyboard. Okay. Then the mouse. You also have a mouse on your table. So you can just pick that mouse and look at it. Or you can just look at the one on the board. So this is how the mouse also looks like. Then we have the cameras. Okay? The digital cameras, which we use in capturing what? Videos. Good. Then you talk about a scanner. So this is how the scanner also looks like. Okay, someone has a question. Okay. He wants to take us back to input device.
We found out that we have so many input devices. You mentioned, but my problem is with the mouse. It seems all the input device is something that we instruct so that it will feed the computer with. But with the mouse, what type of input that it gives to the...
Oh, wow. Okay, Thomas, you want to answer that question?
I want to try.
You want to try? Good, good.
Use the mouse to send a command the computer
Good.
to execute maybe a data or something, to process something.
Good. Good. That's good. Now we use the mouse in sending what we call signals. Signals. It's also an input. And then it executes a command in there. Now, when you click, the action is different from when you right click. Okay, when you press the left mouse button, it's different from pressing the right mouse button. Yet they do some kind of input. So it's sending a signal in your PC to perform an action. And that action is done with the pointer, which you see on your screen. So that is the kind of input it's doing. Signal. And executing those commands. Any other question? Any other question? Okay. Then the microphone. The microphone. Alright. Let's now talk about processing. The processing. We said processing is what? The conversion of data into information. Now this is done by the central processing unit, which is in the system unit. The central processing unit is contained in the system unit. Now it's a small microchip, a silicon chip, which controls all the activities. Now let's see what it says. It says it's made up of the control unit and then the arithmetic logic unit. Okay? It contains what? The control unit and then the arithmetic logic unit. Good. Processor. So this is how it looks like. The processor. Okay. What makes your machine work? The main brain of your system. What does your calculations and all that? What processes your data into information? This simple thing. Okay? It's a small chip which is placed on the motherboard of the system unit. Okay, so this is a motherboard. So as I showed you a system unit earlier on, there was a motherboard in it and you saw some of these items in it. I said we'll be treating this later on. But right now, let's concentrate on the processor. So we are saying that the processor contains the control unit and then the arithmetic or logic unit. It is the main brain. Okay? So the main brain is the processor. The processor. Now, there are different types of processors which are made by different people. The first one we'll talk about is the Pentiums. Okay, there were earlier ones, but the Pentiums came to reign. We had Pentium 1, Pentium 2, Pentium 3, Pentium 4, Pentium M, and then we moved on to other ones. Now they were done by Intel. Then Intel also came up with another one called Celeron. Okay, so the processor's name will go with that one. Then Athlon. Athlon is also another processor which was made by AMD. Okay? Now, these processors, all they do is they are able to help us convert our data into information. They range in speed. So the faster the processor speed, the faster your data will be converted into what? The information. Alright. So this is how the processors and the memories look like. Let me just pick some memories and show it to you. These are memories. So I'll pass it around and just take a look at it. And then the processor. Please take good care of them. Okay, so the processor will go around here, whilst memories go around here. So just take a look at it and then pass it on. We look at how memory looks like. Okay, Okay, pass it on. Pass it on. Good. And then you make an exchange. Look, very good. An exchange. Okay, take a look at that one first. And you get the memory. Now the kind of memory we're talking about is the RAM. The RAM, that's random access memory. Random access memory. RAM stores data and information, but temporarily. Okay, now we want to see the storage capacities. When it comes to the hard disk as well, there is storage capacity. Let's see how this storage is done. How the storage is done. Okay, so that takes us to a table where we'll see how the items on a storage device are measured. Now the first is a bit. A bit. A bit. Now 8 bits make a byte. Then a bit is equivalent to 1 character. So if you type a byte is equal to 1 character. So if you type the letter A, it's the space it occupies there is called a byte. If you type the number 1, the space it occupies in memory is a byte. Are we clear with that? If you are not clear, ask the question and let me clarify. It's equivalent to 1,000 bytes of data. Megabytes, gigabytes, terabytes, and so on. That is how we measure them. So if I tell you that my hard disk, okay, my hard disk has a size of 8 gig and yours has a size of 10 gig, then yours is bigger than mine. And also means that you can store more information than I can store. Okay. Now the processor also has speed, and the speed is measured in hertz. So you have kilohertz, you have megahertz, and you have gigahertz, and so on. So those which are in gigahertz are faster or run faster than those in megahertz. Is that clear? The same way, if you talk about memory, then the size, those which are in megabytes are smaller than those which are in gigabytes. Is that clear? Good. So the next time we meet, we'll be talking about output devices. Output devices. We'll be talking about output devices. And so I invite all of you to read around it. Please read around output devices. Okay? Read around it, and then in your assignments I'll be giving you, you would have to kind of do some research. Go to the net, bring some downloads, and then get some information on them. Okay? Now, any question on input devices? Any question on the lesson so far? Any lesson? Any question, sorry? Alright, that's very good. Now, in conclusion, we learned what ICT is, what a computer is. Then we talked about the main components of a computer. That's the input, output, storage, and then the processing. Then we talked about the information processing cycle. And we said the cycle has to do with you making an input, the input getting processed, then an output given you. You can choose to store that output or distribute it. Then we talked about input devices. And we mentioned examples like the microphone, the mouse, the keyboard, the webcam, and so on, the stylus, and so on. So tomorrow we'll continue with output devices. Okay? Alright. Then the assignment, please don't forget, I'll leave it at the desk with the secretary so that you pick it up and then do it. And that will be presented in 2 weeks' time.
Well. That brings us to the end of the lesson. I hope you enjoyed it, and I know you have some comments that you want to pass on the lesson, and that is the main reason why I made it, so that there can be improvement upon the lesson. So if I have the chance to teach this topic again, I'm sure there are other things that I could put across, and other things that I'll do better. Thank you very much for watching.